gosh, it's almost the end of your day, and you've probably had a long, exciting one. Based on the speakers, I'm so energized and just happy to be here and among them. So I'm Deborah Dugan. I run an organization called RED. And right now, you're all thinking, infectious disease, AIDS, what possibly could that have to do with food? And obviously you're in the wrong place, wrong venue. But no, I actually asked Bitten to please let me be part of this because it's part of a movement, and it's a really important movement. And anywhere that you can use movements to change the world in the better, we look for those opportunities. So RED was started, as you might know, by Bono of U2 and Bobby Shriver. And what we tend to do is go to where people's passions are. And then we try to inspire them, hopefully awe-inspire them, and have them engage in solving one of the world's worst problems, which is the AIDS pandemic. So before I just start talking about what in the world this would have to do with food, just know that it is about bringing people together, and that's what RED does. What we want to do in a big way is try to embrace the food and drink community and take it in a big force in the fight against AIDS. So we had this, much like you had today, somebody giving you trends on foods. We had somebody that just studies trends in 2014 came in, and he started talking to us about like this fooding movement that was happening in certain sections outside of Paris, and then about like these young chefs in Santa Monica and how they're getting on the covers of magazines, and these tea houses in Japan that were also doing something with paper and having these Friday night events, and then the fact that now food festivals are more popular than music festivals when we asked and done research with our audience. And we have about 5.5 million that follow RED on social media. And so we kept thinking, well, what could we do? And so we tend to do Buy RED, Save Lives. And we've done a big program called Dance RED with electronic dance music, Save Lives. So without overthinking it, we thought, Eat Red, Save Lives. And then Belvedere Vodka said, whoa, 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 what about us? So then it was Eat Red, Drink Red, Save Lives. And if anybody else wants to join, it can just get longer, the name. Because that's really not the point. The point is bringing people together at a moment that sort of is about caring anyway. So when you come to the table, and when you break bread, and when you look at each other's eyes, and you have your friends and your family, that's an experience that is about caring. And so how do you take that and use it for people less fortunate, perhaps in another place in the world? So our whole fight has been because of the AIDS pandemic, and 34 million people have died from this disease. That's just under the size of Canada, population of Canada, like just Canada not being there, all those people. And then there's 37 million that have the disease. And you know, we all know that now there's medication. That medication, the price has been reduced because of volume in staggering ways, down to 30 cents a day to keep somebody alive. And so the world has been very successful, quite frankly, in the last 10 years of really rallying and doing the right thing. And so we now have, in 2002, there were 700,000 on the medication. Now it's 15 million. But there are still 37 million that have the disease, and we are fighting to get medication to everybody, and of course educate, prevent, and everything else that goes along with getting a pandemic under control. So some of the things that are a tipping point in an infectious disease like AIDS is, of course, if you have more people on the medication than are contracting the disease, and that happened 2 years ago. Another one is if you can eliminate mother-child transmission of that disease, which we've done quite successfully in the US and Europe, but it's rampant throughout sub-Saharan Africa. So in the last 10 years, we've been able to reduce mother-child transmission of the disease from 1,500 mothers a day passing on AIDS to their baby. The babies will die by their second birthday if they don't get access to medication. But we've taken that 1,500 number, and today it's 600 mothers a day that pass it on. These are not things that RED, which is a group of 15 people in Chelsea, are doing. These are world organizations, the UN, and everybody coming together and doing the right thing. But the world predicts that if we do the right thing, by 2020, we have a vision that we could have virtually eliminate mother-child transmission of the disease, which again is another tipping point in a pandemic when you start to have a generation that doesn't have the disease. That is the beginning of the end of AIDS. So it's really the worst plague of modern times. It's come in a relatively short period of time, 30 years, and in that period or less going forward, it could be off the planet. Vice did a great HBO special recently about that if the world could rally and do this, it would be a case study that we could in fact do many, many impossible things. So in getting back to the spirit of food and what does that have to do with AIDS, we then started this program. We started with an event at Italy, and we got Mario Batali to sort of be our ambassador spokesperson. He then brought along many, many chefs. And last year we had incredible chefs, 50 around the world. April Bloomsfield, Michael Mina, David Chang, Pat Lafrida discounted all his meats for anybody that went red, Nancy Silverton, many others. And so the program was we'd have this like kind of launch supper that would be something unusual, and then restaurants could turn a drink red, an item red, and we have all these very easy ways to participate. You could keep the change, you could, and we made it quite flexible for restaurants. But we like the idea, as we had all the Michelin many-star high-end restaurants, of also having food trucks. So Bank of America helped us have huge national food truck rallies that they all went red. One of our partners is Square, so there's a red square, so the food trucks could use those easily and then double the donation. So it was quite exciting that everybody started to get together and this thing built. And so last year, we had the idea that, we've got to blow it out on social media in a very big way. So we had Vines, we had Instameet with Instagram and various locations. We had Snapchat, and it ended up that, oh wait, I forgot this. We had an emoji food fight. So we had, food going through emojis all over social, and on Twitter, all of a sudden that became this was last June, the top trending topic in the United States. And so, again, our team is really small, and we're in a conference room, we're like, oh my God, we're the top trending in the United States on Twitter. And then we were all like, what's wrong with this country? Like, is that really, the emoji food fight is what's so tough? But anyway, we took it and ran because it's interesting and fun. And it sort of is the red way, that we try to do something a little provocative, a little different, and we let it be easy for people to engage. So we're doing it again this year. Some of our partners that have been incredibly inspiring and helpful, we had Starbucks Pastries, Belvedere Cocktails, Alessi did a line of products, Le Creuset did cookware, Plated did home delivery, Fresh Direct, the guys had, for the deliveries, love them, had red hats and red boxes, Open Table, Zagat, Food and Wine, just an amazing support that led to 1.8 billions of impressions in 2015. We did it for the month of June. So now we're trying to figure out how do we sort of outdo ourselves, and what is the next iteration of Eat Red. So we're going to, on June 2nd, repeat something that we did last year. So we did this crazy red supper, we called it, and we, on the Pier 26, jutting out into the Hudson, invited 1,000 people for dinner, and we had 15 top chefs, all with open ovens that had not cooked before together, and they each had to serve for 200. And there was no VIP section or anything like that. You didn't know who you were going to sit next to. And it was very informal because people would really, they'd like go over to another chef and really like grab one of their pork chops and come back. And it made for this lovely, lovely, very massive dinner. It also happened at 4 o'clock that day. It was a Sunday night. Torrential downpour and lots of lightning. And we didn't know whether we were going to have to cancel it or not. And we had celebrities and models, and the Roots were playing. And so we got a cover, and we had our interns go out and buy 50 red umbrellas really fast. And the West Side Highway was about 6 inches of water. There was flooding. There were no Ubers to be had or anything. And we were literally hearing from the city as these chefs, like world-renowned, were cooking and preparing, that if the number of lightning bolts hits 15 in a minute, that the whole thing's got to be canceled. So we're like, counting lightning. We're like, there's one. And we're waiting to get this notice from the city that we'd have to cancel. It turned out that we didn't have to cancel, but I thought, who is really going to show up? Like, nobody is going to show up to this thing. And sure enough, car after car, models, blah, 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 whatever, everybody, there was not an empty seat, showed up. And it created this environment where the chefs were like, hey, we almost died for this fight against AIDS. And I did my kind of Scarlett O'Hara, I will never be hungry again from Gone with the Wind, of, are we going to let a little lightning stop us in the fight against AIDS? And so we had this like incredible night where everybody was really inspired, and the press and everything was just huge around it. So this year, we're not sure what we're going to do on June 2nd, but it's going to be on June 2nd. And we are going to have a massive, massive red supper in New York. Then on the 5th, which is the anniversary of when the disease and HIV was discovered, we're going to let others have their red supper. So the 50 chefs that were on board last year will host really lovely red events. And the beauty of red is that we try to generate heat, hence the name red, around the issue of AIDS, because if it stays on the table and people are engaged, and then companies come. And so we get Apple and Starbucks, Coca-Cola, Bank of America, Dr. Dre Beats, like many, many companies to give the deep money, right? The big swings in the fight against AIDS. But they only do it if they feel the pulse and the heat from young people like you that are doing inspiring things, that are early adapters, that are movers, that know about people's passions and want to tap into them. So when we get the youth, we then get the companies. When we have youth and companies, we can, believe it or not, then affect policy. So to date, RED has given $350 million to the Global Fund in the fight against AIDS. We're only as good as our best ideas. So I asked if I could come here today to tap into your creativity, to say, is there anything that you're doing, however small, however big, that can maybe help us in the month of June have the culinary experience of a lifetime, where we have companies, food trucks, local smorgasbords, which we had in Brooklyn, but now we're bringing to the West Coast. Any ideas that something perhaps a little provocative, a little out of the box, that can help us get the job done in 86 AIDS and really finish this? I implore you to get in contact with RED. We're red.org. My name is Deborah Dugan. I'll leave a stack of cards, but I'm, at RED. Join us. because together I think we can do a really big swing. So thank you.